discipleship and mentoring is a core value of World Indigenous Missions. And 2 Timothy 2:2, that's an easy one to remember, 2 Timothy 2:2. 2 Timothy 2:2, Paul said to Timothy, "And the things you have heard from me from among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." Paul says, the things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Now, how many generations is that? How many generations is he talking about? How many generations are represented? All right, for example, Paul, one generation, and he's writing to Timothy, a second generation. Then faithful men, a third generation, who will be able to teach others also, a fourth generation. He's speaking of 4 generations there. We believe that the most effective way to spread the gospel is through making disciples. Jesus commanded us to go and make disciples. And disciple is nothing more than a learner, a follower, a student. How many of you have been discipled? You know, I so much wanted to go to seminary, but God, He eventually allowed me to go to seminary. But for the first 13, really 17 years, I was being discipled. And believe me, I learned so much more from being discipled by other men and women of God than I learned at school. Making disciples. I know that we had our heart set on going to Louisville Theological Seminary out of the Baptist Church. Well, when we felt God moving us from the Baptist Church into a non-denominational church, and part of that movement was to be discipled by a man we really respected. In fact, he owned a hospital in a small town where we were living. And I, rather than going to seminary, I became an orderly. So I had been the youth pastor. There's nothing wrong with an orderly. But I had been the youth pastor of a large church. And when I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and we began to see God move, and we'll talk more about this Monday, it just didn't jive with the doctrine of that church. And so that's one of the reasons we left. So here, from that, I began working as an orderly. But that's where I was discipled. That's where I learned to serve, is working as an orderly. An orderly does what the nurses don't want to do. We have a nurse with us, and she knows that. Nurse practitioner. But I learned so much in that job, and I thank God for that job. And in the time of being discipled there working in that hospital. When I went into the mission field, I worked with Mark Balderson, and he was our trainer, and he discipled us, which we're so thankful for. And as we said, making disciples is simply teaching others what Jesus has taught you. And I guess the greatest cost of making disciples is the time spent in doing it. They're the cost to make disciples. And the cost is the time spent together for the purpose of making disciples. And Thomas and Charlie, that's what we did much of our time with discipling those leaders. Let me read you some of the most basic elements of discipleship. The basic elements of discipleship is, first of all, teach them to do it. Then show them how to do it. Then work together with them doing it. Then watch them do it alone. And then give the disciple the opportunity to teach others to do it. And what we found out, some of the best parts of discipleship happen when you least expect it. Maybe when you're on the way to a meeting, or when you're out fishing, or when you're just sitting around talking. Something comes up, and you're able to share with that person. So one of our core values, we feel an important core value, is to make disciples of those among us.